Are you using Insta, Facebook, or WhatsApp? Well, be wary of the data you're sharing. Parent company Meta could be passing on personal data of European users to US authorities. That's why the social media giant has just been fined in the EU with a record sum of 1.2 billion euros. Why would Meta allow sensitive data to be accessed by US government services? Where else is this data being shared, and who exactly is being affected? Let's take a look. Meta transfers its users' data to the US. Why? The company claims it's vital to their business model. User data needs to be bundled so it can be processed in an effective way and to sell targeted ads based on those results. But US surveillance laws allow intelligence agencies such as the NSA broad access to data from non-US users. European Union courts ordered Meta to take precautions against this law previously, but it didn't happen. So now the EU has slapped Meta with this record fine in order to better protect EU citizens' data from the US. It could be an important step. It could force big tech companies to protect our data better, even beyond the EU. That's important because it's not just US authorities that may be interested in your data. Your government could be too. US big tech is aiding the NSA's mass surveillance program. We've known that since 2013, thanks to whistleblower Edward Snowden. Now, 10 years later, governments and intelligence agencies are reportedly receiving even more data from social media providers.
Jyoti Pandey says that this is not just about Meta. It's about the conflict between national data access laws and privacy rights.
Obviously the US government would want a smooth data access regime where whatever data they want, they should have access to it. And the European regulators are operating under a different incentive structure where they are motivated by the fact they want to preserve the data of European citizens.
Meta has been publishing a transparency report since 2016. It details the number of times governments have asked for access to their own citizens' data on its platforms. In the latest issue, the US is topping the list with more than 64,000 requests, followed closely by India, and next comes Germany and Brazil with about 17,500 total requests submitted. In the report, Meta states, Meta responds to government requests for data in accordance with applicable law and our terms of service. Each and every request we receive is carefully reviewed for legal sufficiency, and we may reject or require greater specificity on requests that appear overly broad or vague. So, in other words, unless a country's law doesn't allow for user data to be passed on, Meta may indeed hand it over. The published numbers seem to even indicate that Meta is actually quite willing to give out information. In more than 75% of all cases, at least some form of data was produced. Beyond basic data like usernames, addresses, and contact information, tech companies like Meta, Google, Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon can often access a lot more. For example, users' emails, text messages, call logs, photos, videos, documents, contact lists, calendars, basically everything you do online. That can give government authorities a very intimate look into your private life. In many countries, law enforcement agencies monitor social media to assist with criminal and civil investigations. If they have good reason to believe someone's involved in criminal activity, they might ask platform providers for access to that person's user profile. This can also happen in connection with public safety, for example, before big events. Authorities might want to scan user profiles to assess the risks. Yet another reason is immigration and travel screening, and here we can get an idea of the ethical implications that come with platforms revealing user data to authorities. Imagine if those requests targeted certain ethnicities. You might think this kind of surveillance doesn't apply to you because you've got nothing to hide. But government monitoring of social media data can and has led to people being accused of crimes, even wrongfully. And it definitely hinders free communication. The recent ruling in the EU, apart from the record fine, says Meta has to return European user data to European servers. But apart from that, there's nothing you can really do to be entirely safe from being monitored by your own government or elsewhere. You'd have to completely delete your online accounts to guarantee that. And this doesn't apply to Meta alone, but also to Google, Amazon, and Microsoft.
So in a world of global data flows, how we go about creating the baseline standards for cross-border data flows? Are these data flows going to happen with just like-minded countries that trust each other? You can't bilaterally decide these, right? There has to be, all countries will have to come together and kind of set the rules for the road.
What do you think? Do you care if the government has access to your data? Let us know.